Deep under the red dust of the Australian outback lies the Hamersley Basin, a giant treasure chest worth $6 trillion. This massive find contains 55 billion metric tons of high-grade iron ore. It is officially the largest iron ore deposit ever recorded in human history. This one discovery has a purity level of over 60%, meaning it is almost pure iron right out of the ground. But even with all this wealth, there is a giant engineering problem. The ground is so hot that summer temperatures stay well above 45 degrees Celsius, and the iron is buried deep under ancient layers of rock. How can engineers dig up a mountain of metal when the very air feels hot enough to melt plastic? To understand how this $6 trillion prize got there, we have to look back at the very long history of our planet. For a long time, scientists thought these iron rocks formed about 2 billion years ago. They believed that the Earth's air first got its oxygen back then, which caused iron in the ocean to turn into rust and sink to the bottom. But thanks to new high-tech tools that can measure tiny bits of lead inside the rocks, we now know that isn't true. This giant iron deposit actually formed 1.4 billion years ago. This means the treasure is nearly 1 billion years younger than every textbook said it was. It wasn't a slow process that took forever, either. This iron was pushed together when an ancient supercontinent called Columbia started to break apart. As the land split, it acted like a giant pump, forcing hot, iron-rich fluids into the cracks of the Earth's crust. This super surge of minerals took rock that was only 30% iron and turned it into high-grade ore that is over 60% iron. Nature did the hard work of cleaning the iron for us before we even found it. The first challenge in getting this iron out of the ground is the size of the equipment. In the Pilbara, engineers use the Caterpillar 793F, which is one of the biggest trucks in the world. This truck is so massive that a single one weighs 386,000 kilograms when it is full. These trucks can carry 226 metric tons of rock in one trip. The engine inside these trucks is a total beast, producing 1,976 kilowatts of power. Because the desert is so hot, these trucks use special oil-cooled brakes that keep the wheels from catching fire while they carry all that weight down steep mine hills. Even more amazing is that many of these trucks have no drivers. They use lasers and computers to drive themselves 24 hours a day. This allows the mine to keep working through the night when it is too dark for humans to see clearly. How do these giant robots avoid crashing into each other in the dust? They use smart sensors that talk to each other to make sure each one stays on the right path. If you think the trucks are big, the trains that move the iron to the coast are even more incredible. These trains are called auto-haul, and they are officially the world's largest robots. Each train is about 2.4 kilometers long from the front to the very back. These trains have up to 240 cars, and they carry a total of 28,000 metric tons of iron ore at once. The most shocking part is that there is no one on board the train. It also drives itself across a 1,700 kilometers track, monitored by people in an office in Perth that is 1,500 kilometers away. They use lasers to spot things on the tracks and can stop the train instantly if they see an animal or a broken rail. This helps the mining companies move more iron faster because the trains don't need to stop for lunch breaks, sleeping, or shift changes. This robot train system alone saves about 1.5 million kilometers of road travel every single year, making the whole project much safer for everyone. Then we have the newest parts of this project, the Western Range Mine, which cost $2 billion to build. Instead of using hundreds of trucks to move the iron, engineers built a giant 18-kilometer long conveyor belt. This conveyor belt acts like a moving sidewalk for rocks, carrying them over the desert floor to the processing plant. It is much better than trucks because it uses less energy and doesn't create as much dust. To keep the dust even lower, they use a high-tech misting system called EnviroMist. It uses special nozzles to spray tiny water droplets that are so small they catch the dust particles and pull them out of the air before they can float away. They also use autonomous water trucks like the Caterpillar 789D. These trucks carry 160,000 liters of water. These trucks have sensors that feel how dry the road is and spray just the right amount of water. When they run out, they drive themselves back to a refilling station, fill up their own tanks, and go back to work all on their own. If that sounds like a lot of water, wait until you hear about what happens deep underground. Many of the richest iron deposits are hidden deep below the water table. This means if engineers just started digging, the mines would quickly turn into giant rivers. To stop this, they have to pump out a huge amount of water to keep the mine dry. For just one mining area, they can pump out up to 65.7 gigaliters of water every year. But they don't just throw the water away. Because the desert is so dry, every drop of water is important to the plants and animals. They use a system called Managed Aquifer Recharge, or MAR. They pump the surplus water back into the ground in other places to keep the environment healthy. It is a massive balancing act that uses computers to track every drop of water across the desert. Without this water engineering, the $6 trillion treasure would stay buried underwater forever. How do engineers know exactly where to pump the water back into the ground? They use a digital twin, which is like a giant video game version of the entire mine. All of this technology is part of a plan to make the Pilbara the most advanced mining region on Earth. One of the newest projects, called Rhodes Ridge, is a partnership between Rio Tinto and other big companies. They are spending $191 million just to study how to build the first phase of this mine. This mine alone could produce 50 million metric tons of iron every year. To make sure everything works perfectly, engineers use a digital replica of the plant. They use data from the real world to test different situations in a computer before they even start building. This allows them to find problems and fix them without breaking any expensive parts. It is the same kind of technology that NASA uses to plan missions to space. They even have 3D models that let indigenous elders walk through the mine in virtual reality. This helps the elders see exactly how the mine will look, so they can make sure their sacred sites are protected. It is a way to use the newest technology to respect the most ancient history of the land. Even with all these amazing robots and computers, this $6 trillion find is not without its problems. In the past, mining projects have caused damage to very important historical sites, like the Juukan Gorge rock shelters. These sites were 46,000 years old, and their destruction caused a lot of anger, hurt, and sadness. Because of this, the local people, like the Nyiyaparli, have worked hard to get a better deal. In late 2025, they signed a new agreement with the mining companies. This agreement makes sure their voices are heard and that they get jobs and training from the massive find. It also provides more transparency, which means the companies have to be honest about how their work affects the water and the land. The first ore from the Rhodes Ridge project is expected to be pulled from the ground by the year 2030. Until then, engineers will continue to spend billions of dollars on research and exploration to make sure they can reach every single ton of this 55 billion ton prize. If you enjoyed learning about the massive machines and the $6 trillion secret of the Pilbara, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to comment below with what part of this giant project surprised you the most, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next engineering adventure. See you in the next one.